All right. I'd like to start out by saying Barakatah Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Strangers. Just bear with me 1 second, Babakusha. Okay. All right. So, like I said, the name of this one is Strangers, and this is based off of scripture in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter, dealing with the Passover, and we're gonna get a couple of points out of there, just to show you, there are differences. Just like there's differences in the word mark, when you read the word mark in English, there are differences in the definitions of it. So there are differences in the definition of the word stranger and how it applies either to the nations or to the nation of Israel. So without further ado, let's get to it. The Passover lamb, Exodus 12:1, and the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And this high holy day is only supposed to be kept by the nation of Israel, as all other high holy days. When the kingdom is established, these nations will have to keep certain particular high holy days, such as the Feast of Tabernacles, which the Feast of Tabernacles, when you read Leviticus 23, it says, all that are Israelite born shall dwell in booths, so it was just really, these high holy days was only for the nation of Israel. But in the kingdom, these nations will have to learn it. All right, so there are different ordinances within the Passover of who's supposed to keep the Lord's Passover. All right, the things that you're supposed to eat unleavened bread, bitter herbs, and the lamb, roasted with fire. And then, we have the yayin, which is the wine, which is a representation today of the blood of Yahweh Shai, which is to be put on the lintels and the posts of the house, which was something that our forefathers did prior to coming out of the land of Egypt. And that when Yahweh Shai would see that blood of the lamb on the doorposts of the house, he would pass over it and not suffer any Israelite to lose their firstborn, whether of men or of cattle. All right, so today the blood, or the yayin, which is the wine, is the blood of Yahweh Shai that is sprinkled, for the passing over, so to speak, of the elect of the nation of Israel. All right, so you're supposed to eat it with unleavened bread, bitter herbs, eating out of it raw or sodden it all with water. It's just supposed to just be roasted with fire, but roast with fire. In other words, you stick it in the oven, and that's it. You don't add no seasonings, you don't add no water, you don't add nothing to it. You just cook it like that. We usually just cover it with foil, cook it for a certain period of time, and then uncover it and let the oven just roast it down. That's usually how we cook it. His head with his legs and with the pertinence thereof. So what we're going to jump into, and another thing, and you shall not let nothing of it remain unto the morning. And that which remaineth of it unto the morning you shall burn with fire, because you're not supposed to be taking leftovers home. After the Passover is done, I'm going to make me a little plate for tomorrow for lunch. Nah, this is a very serious thing. So you're not supposed to be taking home no leftovers and none of that. So let's jump down to the 19th verse, which is where it first starts. It says, 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. So tonight today being the 26th of March 2021, the year of hastening of the coming of our Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. When the sun goes down in your area, that's when the Passover begins. And when the Passover begins, you would keep it 7 days. And the seventh day would be the end of the Passover, plus it would be the end of the eating of the unleavened bread. So if it starts tonight, Friday evening, let me just pull up a calendar so we can have a visual. Just bear with me 1 second. 2021 March. Okay, so here we got the calendar. This is 2021. You have March here. You have the 26th here, which is a Friday. At evening tonight it starts. So this would be technically the first day starting tonight. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So by the time the sun goes down Friday, next Friday, you could eat leaven. And then that Friday night, the Thursday night to Friday night would be a Sabbath, which is the last Sabbath of the feast. It'll be the ending of the feast. And then that Friday night will still be the Sabbath. So you'll have 2 back-to-back Sabbaths there. You know, the last day of the Feast of Passover or Feast of Unleavened Bread, and the regular Sabbath, which falls that Friday evening. So Thursday to Friday is the Sabbath, and Friday to Saturday is that Sabbath. So once the sun goes down on Friday, that you can eat leaven. Okay. So going back to Exodus, 7 days there shall be no leaven found in your houses, and you're supposed to take the leaven out of your house, put it in your car, in your truck. You know, if you have a storage outside of your home, put it there. If you could keep it over your mother's house, or whoever's house, so you don't have to throw it away, because money is kind of tight, for brothers and sisters. So in order for you not to throw all that stuff out, you could put it in your car, your truck, your garage if you have a garage, as long as it's not in your home. All right. It says, for whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. Now, this is not talking about an actual stranger. This is talking about an Israelite that is strange to that land where he was coming to. Like, for instance, you had let's go to Acts chapter 2 and verse 5. Salakia. Acts 2 and 5, it says, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So these were Israelites that would come from wherever land they were from. As you read down in the 9th verse down, it'll give you all the different places they came from. And they would have to be put up in inns, different hotels or whatever they had. They might have had family that had room or had some extra space where they could stay with them, but they didn't have the same rights as the Israelites that were born there. And this is where the ordinance of the Passover comes from, for those that were born in the land and those that were strangers or sojourners, which were Israelites that were coming from different lands and staying with them. They were Israelites, they were related, but they didn't have the same rights as those that were born in the land. And this is where we get the word stranger here from, whether he be stranger or born in the land. That's why it says stranger or born in the land, meaning an Israelite that was born in a strange land, or as opposed to one that was born in the land. And when we look up this word stranger, right, we have the word there, bagar, which is in or in sojourn. So the word stranger is the word gar, which means sojourner. Now, what is a sojourner? This is someone that stays with you for a certain period of time. A sojourner is a person who resides temporarily in a place. Sojourner may also refer to sojourner truth, which is dealing with something else. But this is the main one. A sojourner is a person who resides temporarily in a place, so they don't have the same rights as those that are actually born there. You know, there were a certain set of rules that they had to keep. So going back, it says a temporary inhabitant, a newcomer lacking inherited rights. Yeah, because they didn't have the right to the same rights that those that were born in the land had. Okay, so that you could understand, even though they were Israelites, but they weren't born and they weren't brought up in that region. It says of foreigners in Israel, because you had Israelite foreigners or Israelite Gentiles, though conceded rights. And this is the scripture I was looking for when we had done a lesson on strangers before, and I couldn't figure out what scripture or what word it was, whether it was Hebrew or Greek, that had something called conceded rights. All right, now conceded rights are rights that are given to someone because they are Israelites, but it's reluctant, like, I really don't want to do it, but I have to. So grudgingly. And that's why we look up the word, let me move this up. We look up the word concede in the Free Dictionary. The word concede is yielding without necessarily agreeing. And that's what it was. You had Israelites in the land of Israel that were given these Israelite foreigners, you know, the rite of passage, so to speak, to be partakers of the Commonwealth of Israel, but not necessarily wanting to really do it. They did it because it was the right thing, but they were kind of like, really don't want to do that. But down here, concede, to acknowledge as true, just, or proper, admit, often grudgingly. And that's what it was. So that's why we read here, of foreigners in Israel, which were Israelite foreigners, though conceded rights. The rights that were given to them, they really didn't want to give them to them, but they knew that they were Israelites, so they had to give it to them. In other words, they're like, yo, man, why I got to give this guy, you know, these rights when he wasn't born in the land? He was born in a foreign land. He ain't even speaking Hebrew. He's speaking Greek. So just imagine, those were the Hellenistas, which were Greek-speaking Jews. So how much more the ones that were totally gone, had, you know, probably had tattoos on them and brands and didn't have a beard, wore togas, you know, just in a straight up heathenistic state of mind. All right. So now let's go back. So now that you understand what the word sojourner means, or stranger, there's differences between strangers in the scriptures. You have those strangers that were Israelites that were sojourning in the land of Israel, although they weren't born there. And then you had the actual strangers. And when you look up the word stranger in English, it's going to appear as stranger everywhere you look. But when you go through the different Hebrew words, there's going to be a distinction in those words, such as when we jump down to the 43rd verse, right? And up here it says ordinance of the Passover. The ordinance is what? Is a law, or the instructions, you know, the lawful instructions of keeping the Passover. Okay. It says, and the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. So now if you reading this for face value, you're not going to understand. Say, wait a minute, it's set up above that if he's a stranger or born in the land. But here it's saying that no stranger should eat. And this is where it's important to understand the actual words, the different words that appear in either the Hebrew or the Greek for this. It says, there shall no stranger eat. When we look up the word stranger, you have the word there, bun, which is son, and then you have the word nakar. Now, this is an actual word. Nakar is one of the words that is used for an actual stranger, for an actual heathen. But there are times where that word is also used to refer to Israelites. Because remember, we as a nation, we fell from our inheritance. We fell from our heritage. We started following the customs of the other nations. So the Lord, since we turned our back on the Lord turned his back on us, and he gave us up, you know. So we were just out there. So we became just like the nations, because the Lord gave us rules and regulations to be governed by, to separate us from the nations, to keep us holy. But when we went off, we pretty much became like the nations. So we became like the Bun Nakar, or the Bun Nakarium of these nations. So you could understand. And this is where the Israelite foreigner, or understanding the Israelite foreigner topic, comes into play, and is very important. Because if you don't understand that history, you don't understand the concept of when the scriptures in the New Testament speak about the Gentiles receiving salvation. You would think it's talking about everybody, but it's not. It's talking about the Israelites that were in a Gentile state of mind. That's what we call them, Israelite Gentiles, or Israelites in the Gentile state of mind, or Israelite heathens, or whatever the case may be. So this is Jeremiah 2:20. This is one time, as well as others, where the term Nakar applies to Israelites because of the condition that they became, or they went into, by disobeying the laws and the words of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Jeremiah 2:20, for of old time I have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands, and thou saidest, I will not transgress. When upon every high hill and under every green tree thou wanderest playing the harlot. And that was our undoing, was the worshiping of these idols. That was one of the main things that the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai hates. You know, one of his main pet peeves. It says, yet I had planted thee what? A noble vine. So we were planted in nobility. Going back to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, we were given laws, statutes, and commandments that separated us from the nations. The nations praised and lauded us, you know, for having the Lord so close to us and having such laws, statutes, and commandments that were so great. It says, holy, a right seed. So the whole nation was planted holy. You know, not holy as far as sacred, but holy as far as the whole of it. Holy, a right seed. Because we were given everything that we needed to govern us. It says, how then art thou turned into what? Into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me. So we became what? Strange. A degenerate plant. This could also go hand in hand with Romans, the 11th chapter, about the wild olive tree. So a degenerate plant of a what? Of a strange vine unto me. So he's speaking to the nation of Israel. So when we look up this word strange, you're not going to see the word sojourner, because this is not applying to a sojourner. This is applying to how we as a nation became strange to the Lord, as opposed to what he planted us to be. So we look up the word strange, and what do we have? Nakaria, which goes back to the word Nakar. Foreign, alien, foreign, foreigner, foreign woman, harlot, unknown, unfamiliar. So we became unfamiliar. So this sometimes applies to the nations, and sometimes it applies to Israel. Now, when you go to the book of 1 Kings, the 8th chapter, and I believe it's 2 Chronicles, the 6th chapter, it speaks about those that are not the people of the Lord, the strangers that call on the Lord. Those are talking about Israelites that fell from that stature, from that state of being holy. You know, those are the ones that fell into degeneration. All right. You read Isaiah the 56th chapter, when it speaks about the stranger, it also uses the word Nakar. Those are Israelites that were in this state here. Because when you go to Isaiah 65 and 1, which is talking about Israelites, it says, I am sought of them that asked not for me. I am found of them that sought me not. I said, behold me unto a nation that was not called by my name. Why? Because Israel went off. That's why it said, in the place where it was said unto them, you are not my people, there shall be said unto them, you are the sons of the living power. See, and this is the difference between plantation Christianity and understanding the true message of the scriptures, you know, that the Hebrew Israelites teach, and they get mad about that. You know, this is why they're constantly attacking the Hebrew Israelites, especially the ones coming from One West. All right, so going back to Exodus 12, when we read here, and the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. So a heathen is not supposed to eat of the Passover. It says, but every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. Why? Because you had instances where you had Israelites that were that fell they fell into poverty, and when they fell into poverty, they had to be hired by someone, whether it was an actual Israelite or actual heathen, because sometimes a heathen had substance enough to where they would hire Israelites. And it was the job of an Israelite that was next of kin to him, if that was the case, to go and to redeem his brother from that heathen. And that's what the scriptures speak about when you read the curses in Deuteronomy 28. No man shall buy you, no man shall save you, no man shall help you. We weren't even going to be able to help ourselves because we were going to fall in such decay. So in this case, this is a dealing with an Israelite that was bought for money to be a servant. He can eat thereof, but he got to be sure that he's circumcised, because sometimes when you were bought as a servant, depending on who bought you, they may not circumcise your children, depending on the custom, So you may have children that were uncircumcised, or you might have been born into this servitude. Your father might have been in decay, and then he sold himself to this heathen, and then when you were born, you were not circumcised. So in order for you to eat of the Passover, you had to be circumcised as an hired servant. Now let's get a precept to go into that. This is the book of Leviticus 25 and 38. But before we go to that one, let me see. And this whole chapter is very good, a very good chapter to go into the redemption of the Israelites. And this is what the scriptures mean by no man shall buy you. No man is going to be able to redeem you. And this is a chapter that goes into Israelites being able to redeem other Israelites out of their condition, poverty condition. Here, right here, it says, of poor countrymen, dealing with what? With your brothers that became poor. It says, this is the 35th verse, if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then shalt thou relieve him. See? So he's talking about what? Your brother. Yea, though he be what? Though he, your brother, be a what? Be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. So we look up these terms. Stranger, which is gar. And then you have the word here, sojourner. So another word for sojourner is thawashab. And this is also another word that is used for the actual heathens. But in this case, is used of an Israelite, which is your brother that fell in decay with you because he was poor. He sold himself to you to work for you, and you were supposed to relieve him, though he were a stranger, gar, or a sojourner. Though he actually had the inherited rights or not, as we read for the word sojourner or stranger, gar. That the rights were given to them, but they were conceded. They were given to them grudgingly. All right. So now when we jump down to the 38th verse, I am the Lord your power. I believe you at 38. I am the Lord your power, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt, to give you the land of Canaan, and to be your power. And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant. Right, because we have here, every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. So it says, but as an hired servant and as a sojourner. See? It says, let me see something. It does have there for the word sojourner. Goes back to thawashab, which could be also applied to actual heathens. It says, but as an hired servant and as a sojourner, he shall be with thee and shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee. See? And then by the time of the year of Jubilee, you were supposed to set him free. You had the year of release, which was every 7 years, and then you had the year of Jubilee, which was every 50 years, 49 years, and then the next year, which was the 50th year, he would be set free. And then shall he depart from thee, both he and his children with him. See, and shall return unto his own family. See, now he can go back to his own family. He no longer has to be a sojourner in your land, having rights, but not rights that are given to him because he was born there, but because he received them grudgingly as a sojourner among you. I hope, brothers are following along. And unto the possession of his father shall he return. See, because at the end of the day, every Israelite man had a possession among their families. It says, for they are my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen. Thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but shall fear thy power. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, meaning your slaves, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen, the actual heathen, that are round about you. Of them shall you buy bondmen and bondmaids. Right. But with your brother, you were supposed to treat him right. You were supposed to, even though he was your servant, you still didn't treat him like you would treat a actual heathen that was your servant. He would have more rights than that as what they call an indentured servant. Matter of fact, let's look up that word, indentured servant. See what it says. Matter of fact. A person who signs and is bound by indentures to work for another for a specified time, especially in return for payment of travel expenses and maintenance. So that's an indentured servant, and that's who you're supposed to treat your brother as, not as an actual servant. That's why it says, moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall you buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. But we're not supposed to rule over our brothers like that. It says, and you shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, you shall not rule one over another with rigor. Okay? So now going back to Exodus 12, this is dealing with an Israelite that's a hired servant. But then here you have a foreigner, and an hired servant shall not eat thereof. This is talking about the actual heathens. And this is why sometimes when you read the scriptures, it can be confusing. As the Apostle Peter said about the letters of the Apostle Paul. Let's get that. What's that? 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 15. It says, an account that the long suffering of our Lord is salvation, even as our beloved brother Paul, also according to the wisdom given unto him, hath written unto you, as also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable rest or wrestle, as they do also the other scriptures unto their own destruction. So if you read this without understanding, you're going to say, well, I don't know, this seems like the Bible is contradicting itself. But it's not. It's just a matter of understanding the particular words for foreigner, for stranger, for sojourner. So you have the word foreigner, which is tawashab, which is an actual name or actual word used for an actual stranger, but sometimes it could apply to Israel, as we read up above. Then you have hired servant, which is shakayar, which you get the word Issachar or Yashashkar, which means he is hired. These are talking about actual nations, and you got the distinction between the two where? In Leviticus 25, where we just read, if your brother fall in decay, he will be your servant, but you won't treat him as a bondman. You won't rule over them with rigor. But the heathens that were around you, you can hire them. This is what this part is talking about. These two verses are dealing with the brother that you hired and with the heathens that were your servants. They're not supposed to eat, but your brother can eat once he's been circumcised. Make sure he's circumcised. It says, and in one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall you break a bone thereof. And that breaking the bone thereof goes back to the prophecy where Yahushua, they didn't break his bones because that was a way to make the ones that were crucified die quicker by breaking their bones. But when it came to Yahushua, he had already passed. It says, all the congregation of Israel shall keep it. The heathens are not supposed to touch this. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover, this stranger is talking about a sojourner, an Israelite that came from a foreign land. It says, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land. Why? Because now he is ready to keep the Passover, because he was as if he was born in the land, because he was circumcised, him, his children, and whatever was with him, whatever male was with him. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. All right, and when we look up this word stranger here, you have what? The word gar again, which is a sojourner. Though conceded rights. Even though the rights that were given to them were grudgingly at times, but nevertheless they were still Israelites. Verse 49. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, meaning one that was actually born in the land, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you, an Israelite that was born in a foreign land, but still came to keep the Passover as is commanded us in Deuteronomy 16 and 16. 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy power in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty. Okay, so that was the main point. And for you to understand a little bit more about the sojourners, those that had conceded rights, which were rights that were given to them grudgingly. In order for you to really understand that even a little more, just go to the book of Ephesians, the second chapter, and read that. And it'll give you the Israelite foreigners being brought back to the fold, and being cleaned up and being partakers of the commonwealth of Israel, which at one time they were foreign to. All right, and that'll give you a better understanding. So with that, I pray that your brothers have been edified. May you brothers out there have a blessed Passover. I remember Elder Pastor just did a video of eating the Passover unworthily. You just can't invite anybody. This is really for the ones that are in this truth, that are teaching this word, that are out there laboring. You may have helps, that keep the Passover. You have believing sisters that keep their Passover, in their home. I just uploaded, Elder Pastor asked me to upload it. I just uploaded the Passover service on my channel. It's actually up now. And may the Spirit be with you brothers and sisters to keep the Passover. And to the next time I say Shalom.